All right, let's look at Afex commodities market now. The number of contracts traded at the exchange in the week that ended September the 27th increased to 41,828 from 6,600. The value traded was also up. But to give us more insight about the trading activities in the week under review and more is the portfolio manager at Afex, Michael Martin. Hey, Michael. Good morning.
Hi, Chimeze. Good morning. It's lovely to be here again. And it looks like it's just me and you this morning.
Oh, it's just you and I. Laddie abandoned me. Anyway, so how would you describe trading activities in the week that ended September 27th?
Thank you very much, Chimeze. So just to give you an overview of what happened in the commodities market in the week under consideration, the total value of transactions traded on the exchange went up by a factor of 4, from around 187 million naira to close the trading week at 834 million naira. The total number of contracts traded on the exchange also went up by a factor of 6, from 6,600 contracts to close the trading week at 41,828 contracts. We, however, saw a slight decline in the number of deals traded on the exchange, which fell by 6%, from 35 deals to close the trading week at 33 deals. The ACI and the AEI, which is the Afex Commodities Index, and also the Afex Export Index remained unchanged at 427.34 and 168.08 respectively. With regards to volume changes on the exchange, we generally saw an increase in the volume of contracts traded on the exchange in this week, with maize going up from 659 contracts to trade 35,070 contracts this week. And then we also saw an increase in the number of contracts traded for paddy rice going up from 3,044 contracts to close the trading week at 4,779 contracts. There was generally little to no other volume traded for the other commodities on the exchange. With regards to price changes on the exchange, soybean went up by 2.38%, gaining 900 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at 38,683 naira per contract. Paddy rice also went up slightly by 1.72%, gaining 370 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at 21,863 naira per contract. We, however, saw a massive decline in the price of ginger, which fell by 19.35%, losing about 24,648 naira in the contract. 648 naira to close the trading week at 102,714 naira and the contract value. So that's by and large all of what happened in the commodities market on the exchange this week. And as we always say, if you want to know more about commodities, you can always go to our website, which is www.afexnigeria.com. And if you want to get started really trading spot contract and fixed income contracts on the exchange, you can download our app, which is available on iOS and also on Android.
Okay, Michael. Now, we noticed there hasn't been a movement in the export market in the past few weeks, but we do see a bit of movement with ginger. Can you explain what is currently going on in the ginger market?
Thank you very much, Chimezia, for that question. And I think that's a very important question, considering where we are in the commodities market today. So it is the case that there is a lot of speculation currently going on in the ginger market. But I must also say that we don't expect the harvest volumes for ginger to come into the market until the last few weeks of the month of November. So it is the case that some of the very few traders who are still currently playing in the market, who still hold inventory, are trying to underprice that inventory significantly so that they can essentially sell off, right, in anticipation of the new commodity season. And this same dynamics does tend to play out across all the different commodities that are traded on the exchange. But it is the case that due to the sustained rainfall that we have seen this year, that may not necessarily be the case with commodity prices falling. But we would have to look over our shoulder for the next 2 or 3 weeks to definitively figure out whether or not that is actually going to happen with commodity prices this season.
Now, on the back of your crop production survey, can you share any insights into what could potentially happen at the start of the new commodities market season?
Thank you very much, Chimeze. And even before I answer that question, I think it's far more important to just give an overview of what has happened in the commodities market in this last season that we just passed. So for some of the commodities that we have traded that were traded on the exchange, particularly for maize went up by more than 60-70%. Soybean went up at some point in time more than 100%. And we do essentially see the same price action across board for all the other grains, which is rice and sorghum, and then also for the export commodities that we have on the exchange, which is cocoa, sesame, ginger, and then also for cashew. And I think that these price changes and price appreciations have implications both from an investment standpoint and then also from a sustainability standpoint. And when I say sustainability, I mean with regards to the activities of smallholder farmers, right? So to truly answer your question, we are not completely done with the crop production survey yet, but there are a few insights that we can glean from the data that we currently have. And that is to say that we can expect a better harvest this season in comparison to last season. And like I said, right, higher prices tend to have implications on farmer activities. So what we have seen happen during this year's cultivation, we have seen a lot of farmers go to the market to cultivate in order to take advantage, right, of the higher prices that we have seen in the commodities market. It is the case, right, that this single factor is the highest motivation factor, even above all the other fundamentals that we have had, that we do have that influence cultivation, which essentially tends to be, you know, the availability of inputs, land use, and then maybe even also rainfall, which tends to affect cultivation in any given commodity season. So that's it on one part. The final version of the report would be out in the month of October. But to also answer the other question, which is basically to say, what do higher commodity prices, what are its implications from an investment standpoint? So I mentioned that maize went up by more than 60-70%. Soybean at some point in time in the course of the commodity season also went up by more than 100%. I mean, Chimeze, if I haven't done anything for you this year at all, I have come here every single month, every single week to come and educate you on your need, right, to invest in the commodities market, but I haven't seen any sort of significant action in that regard. It is the case that if you had invested in the commodities market at some point, at this same point in time, let's say last year, you would have made more than 60-70% of your money. Right. I mean, this year alone, we've even reduced the value of the spot contracts from 100 kg to 1 kg to essentially make it cheaper for people to invest. And we are also, you know, making available a wide array of investment products for people to invest in. So at this point in time, right, you honestly don't have any excuse, you know, for not investing in the commodities market. I know Ladi mentioned at some point in time in April,
investing in ginger. Ladi talked about investing in ginger.
Yeah, and I know that is not true, but I'm guessing it's because he's taking a la-di-da approach to investing. But I know that you, Chimeze, you're a serious person. So tell me in the right
really?
I'm putting you on the spot. In anticipation of the new commodity
No, Michael. You tell me. You would have to advise me what commodity I would probably invest in at a time like this.
Look, I can tell you for free, right? If it's liquidity that you're looking for on the exchange, and this is a message not just to Chimeze, right? It's also to every other investor who is looking at me right now, who is trying to take advantage or who is trying to find investments, alternative investment asset classes that can give you a return that is higher than the inflation rate, which is currently around 17%. It is to say that on the exchange, we currently have contracts that are much cheaper, and it is also the case that some of the most liquid commodities that we have, spot contracts that we have on the exchange, are maize and soybean. So if I were to go out of my own, purview and out of my comfort zone and address and maybe advise you on what to invest in, I would say, Chimeze, please and please, before the end of the month of October, going to the month of November, please find some maize and soybean spot contracts to buy. You will thank me for it in about 9 months' time.
Okay, I would probably consider your advice, Michael. But then you're saying I should rather go for agri-commodities rather than going for equities or looking at the fixed income market.
Yes, absolutely. So think about it like this, Chimeze, right? When you think about the investment landscape right now and what is currently going on, right? If you look at the stock market, it hasn't really done significantly well this year. Right. I mean, at some point in time, it was even down year to date at the middle of the year. If you look at the fixed income market, which is basically the treasury bill rate, which is about the most liquid market that we have right now, I mean, the return for the 365-day investment product is less than 7.5%, meaning that if you put your money in any of these investment asset classes, you're not expected to generate any sort of significant return that is higher than the rate of inflation. Right. Even if you don't want to invest in commodities from a pure alpha acquisition point of view, which is basically to say pack all your money and put it in commodities. even from a portfolio diversification standpoint, it's a no-brainer at this point for you to not be, it's a no-brainer if you're not invested in the commodities market. It just doesn't make any sense because there are only so many other alternative asset classes that you can invest in that have both a sustainable standpoint, knowing fully well, right, that whatever, every single naira that you put into the commodities market has an implication on the smallholder farmer who tend to be the poorest out of us in the country. And then also that you can make a significant amount of money in terms of return on investment, right? So if you are listening to me right now and you haven't downloaded the COMEX app, go to your phone, if you're using an iOS or an Android, download the app. Somebody's going to get in touch with you and teach you and take you step by step on how to start investing in commodities. You will thank me for this in 9 months' time. I can almost guarantee you that.
All right, Michael, I'll take your advice for it. Thank you. We do appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Chimeze.